Good evening and welcome to the Chat Show, where we provide computer help, advice, and tech news. Tonight, we're a little bit more of a humble dome because we're going to bring some hot takes and try to maybe lower some individuals' egos. Tonight's topics: are parents dumber than their kids? Probably. Are browsers that you didn't like before something you might want to take a look at? And is the PC that you want to buy or sell actually a hunk of junk? And how can you improve your chances as the buyer or the seller? I am joined tonight by my co-host, Bradford Skeldorado of the channel Bradford Skeldorado. Say hello, sir.
How's it going, everybody? Hope you all having a wonderful night.
I know I am. Okay, so before we get started, Lucky Charms, what do you got for us?
All right, so I have a birthday gift that was given to me last year, and it is a Funko Pop of myself. As you can see, I've got the hat, the glasses, I've got little weight and gamer headset with one of our dogs, and as you can see, Bradford Skeldorado. So for the low price of I think $30, you can also funk yourself. I mean, pop yourself. Pop yourself. My bad.
That is amazing. Hold on, is this done by Funko? They let you do customized. Do you have to send in like a picture?
They're pop yourself. So they have all kinds of accessories you can add to it, and hairstyles, which I have none, so that was easy for them. But yeah, as you can see, it is a fun little personalized gift.
Oh, that is amazing. That is amazing. Okay, well now I'm gonna add that to like my list of gift ideas and stuff. Mine isn't nearly as I don't know. I do think it's as nearly as cool. This is a tripod. My parents are old school people that love antiquity, and they found this classic tripod that,
oh wow,
it's maybe 14 inches long. I mean, you can see how like compact this is. So old, it doesn't have one of those mounting plates that you're so used to seeing for cameras and such. It is very lightweight, but also very sturdy. It's not like the modern ones, which are usually made out of aluminum and they're kind of rickety. You get a smaller, compact unit, and it's way sturdier. And when fully deployed, which I can't do here right now, you're going to end up with something comparable to if you had to carry around one of these. So if you can go to a secondhand store or an antique shop and find some old camera gear, it might actually serve you better and be more durable. I mean, this thing is sturdy than some of the bulkier, lightweight, newfangled, cheap stuff that you're going to find on Amazon if you're a content creator. So that is my... Cool. Say that again?
Super cool. I like the finish on it.
Yeah, it's yeah, the shininess, the locking mechanism is a little weird, and it took me a while to learn how to use. But so that's all I've got. So let's move on to our news of the evening, our tech news. Our first story tonight dealing with web browsers. Okay. Microsoft Edge might let you limit its RAM usage, including a setting just for gamers. So, as I understand it, and you can tell me what your opinion is, Microsoft Edge is like the least liked browser of the available commonly used browsers. Would you agree?
I would absolutely agree with that. I would say it's always funny when you set up a new PC and you bring it up, and just like the story says, it's normally used just to download your browser preference. But if you've ever set anything to a default browser, as soon as you click off of Microsoft Edge, it's like they're trying to buy you by saying, please try us out before you switch. So it's actually funny that this story come up.
But the notion of reduced RAM usage, I mean, that actually does pique my interest. Because I know one of my biggest frustrations with Chrome is that it's, you know, always eating up a whole bunch, and they have to implement efficiency mode, and being able to set a limit and saying, okay, you're only going to use a gig of my RAM, and then after that, you know, go see somebody else. Or that's the part I don't understand is what's it going to do? Just stop working? Like, not going to load the rest of the page?
Yeah, and I saw this was kind of interesting because all I had was Gmail for the story, for the PDF, and the Microsoft story itself that you have on the screen. And I looked at my usage, and I was using 2 gigs on Chrome for the 2 tabs. So my take on this is it really beneficial for gamers? I would say yes and no. Yes, because if you have a budget PC that you may only have 8 gigs of RAM, it could be huge to continue to make sure you maximize. If you've got a walkthrough or something like that up on your screen and you're trying to game, it could be cool to set that usage limit. But also, we talked last week, like 16 gigs is like the minimum now that you would really probably recommend.
Right.
So I wouldn't say that saving that 1 or 2 gigs, but if you've got YouTube playing in the background, if you've got anything else that you're kind of listening to, I could definitely see where it could be beneficial.
For anybody watching, let us know in the chat what browser you prefer, and is there a particular reason behind it? I know that gamers being able to protect their RAM while gaming, but they need a browser window open so they can Google cheat codes or whatever they're doing. It could be beneficial for them. All right. Well, let's move on to our second story this evening. Parents share warning after son spends $4,000 playing video games. This is a story from April 4th of this year. How many times, just off the top of your head, have you heard about a kid spending their parents' money in video games?
I've heard many stories that come up like this, and it's usually once a year, to where it's like the shock of a mom that checks her bill and there's a few $1,000s worth, and of course somebody sees the need to write about it. My concern is this is the generation, like the parents are the generation of pay to play or pay to win. That's when Xbox Live started. That's when a lot of your online services with even if it's, you know, microtransactions through anything, it's not like we're just now starting the Robux, you know, iPad kids movement. We've been doing these transactions for so long. So I don't understand how the generation that started it is the one that's so shocked by it now.
I'm 100% with you. I'm 43. These are my contemporaries who have had kids. In fact, the photo in this article, those people, I don't know how old they are. They look a little younger than me. They look like they might be mid-late 30s, right?
Yeah.
So they are the PlayStation generation. They're not the Nintendo generation. I'm the Nintendo generation. And so this is the mobile gaming, little poker apps and things like that. This is right up their alley, and they look mystified. Look at them.
Oh yeah.
They're just perplexed at how did this happen? You gave your kid access to your credit card. Why? And my other issue with this is it's not anything new. I went looking back, and this is an article from 2016. 17-year-old uses his dad's credit card to spend $7,600 playing FIFA. Now, I think that was in Belgium or something like that, but it doesn't matter. Like, this has been going on for at least a decade of these little microtransactions and things like that. I'm mad that they got their money back. These parents here got their money back. I'm a little upset. Like, you shouldn't.
Yeah,
they should have suffered for that.
You should, to an extent. I mean, obviously, you got to give your kids a little bit of freedom, but it's like you got to monitor what your kids are doing, but you also have to monitor your bank accounts. Like and not only that, but this story does not say when this happens. So let's say you're going through your finance. Hey, honey, we need to budget. We need to make sure we're cutting all the excess out. And then you start adding it up, and it's $4,000 maybe over 6 months, which is still a lot of money from an 8-year-old. But it's like, are you not getting any type of notification or seeing this in any of your finances coming up that $4,000 just left your account?
Yeah, when I read the article, it sounded a lot like it happened over the last 30 days. Like, this isn't a multi-month buildup. This was $4,000 in a month or something. Like, this is very quick. But still, like, you should have what financial app or banking app doesn't have the spending alert or something like that on it? Hey, you've spent $500. I can have normal amount of money this week. I get
and
those
that
all
may
the
have
time.
been what tipped it off to look at that. But I just want to know what game. Like, if you were playing, I don't know, Clash of Clans, right? The most you can spend on that is $99. Any game that I've ever played that's like, get the extra coins, get the in-game currency, it's $99
in a single transaction.
Yeah.
Okay.
You would have to do that. What is that? 40 times? And you don't like, and it paints this kid to be the victim, to be honest, because it's like, they don't know the difference between the virtual world and the real world. And it's like, come on, man, that kid knew whenever he's decimating all of his friends in the game. Like, no, they knew.
Well, I will give some credit that, like, I do think that these companies make that part ambiguous. And plus, kids don't understand money. And in fact, there was another article I had read when I went back in time to like look at like 2015 and so, and there were people talking about specifically having games that teach kids about money and teach kids how to use money, how to budget and stuff like that. And our commenter, is it Elisa Noel, says kids need more butt whoopings and weak parenting, no excuse. I can agree on that on a few different levels. So that isn't your wife, is it?
That is my wife.
You guys have kids together?
Oh yeah.
Oh, someone's getting some butt whoopings.
Yeah, they definitely don't have the free reign to click that button, but it is one of those like getting permission anytime that you want to get something additional.
You're a perfect case study here. How do you? So how did you set it up? Do your kids have access to games that have microtransactions?
So they do.
Okay, and
my wife has it set up to where she has to authorize it to their account. So almost like whenever we were growing up with Xbox Live, I never had mine set up to auto draft. If mine ran out, I was out of luck for the day, and I had to go to Walmart or the Blockbuster. There's your dated establishment, but I'd have to go to Blockbuster and get either the 3-month or whatever it was to make sure that I could get online. So that's kind of how we would do it. She would basically purchase the gift card and then just input the numbers.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Just control your money, folks. And don't let your kids
I will say a buddy of mine kind of talked about this with me a while back.
Okay.
And his thing was, it's predatory for these companies to do this because Call of Duty used to do whatever and they made X amount of $1 billion. And I'm like, he compared it to a gambling addiction. And I was like, bro, but that's still accountability on yourself. Like, at some point you got to step away. If you're an adult or a kid, regardless, you got to find the problem and cut it off. I don't think it's the company's fault because the company is made to make money.
Right. But they do make it seem like you're not spending real money. And the trick is convert the real money into coins in the game, and then you're spending virtual money after that. And that, I think, tricks the kids into thinking, okay, I'm not spending that much. And I don't think that they did it with the idea that, $4,000 was going to be accidentally spent. Yay, we've made $4,000. We tricked somebody into doing it. But if the kids spent $200 over the course of a month, the parent's less likely to be like, all right, you know what, stop doing that. All right, we're not going to go fight it and try and get it back, but darn. Like, I think they're willing to accept that margin of error. The other thing is the gift card idea of just getting one of those prepaid visas and being like, all right, here's your budget for the year. I'm putting $100 on here. You spend it all, it's on you. So, all right. And our final story, this one I have a lot to say about. So I want to save up some time for it. It sounds rather boring at first, but it made me very curious. Microsoft cuts Windows 10 support, and this will start in 2025, which could turn 240 million personal computers into trash and e-waste. And then they include goldmine, which I for some, maybe. Businesses may find Microsoft's newer operating system won't run on old PCs, but don't toss them in the trash. Now, Inc. here is clearly trying to throw in an upside. Some of the articles I found were basically just spouting doom and gloom about this. My big question, what PC can run 10 but can't run 11?
So you want to hear some interesting numbers? Because I actually searched this.
Okay, I did too, so go.
It said it won't run on older 32-bit computers. The last 32-bit computer was made in 2002.
Okay.
So the last, and that was the Pentium 4. The last one was shipped in 2008. So who, like you said, who's still running these computers? But also, I mean, a 32-bit computer, I don't even remember. Probably back in 2006, I had one and just didn't know it because it was, so old and I wasn't into it. But it's like, this would have to be factory computers running older equipment, running that they've had this program on there for so long that it's just never been a need to update the computer. But realistically, a 2002 computer was the last time that they had a 32-bit.
But 32-bit will run 10, but not 11?
So just like it's saying, PC requirements for Windows 11 compatibility, it won't run on older 32-bit computers unless it has a special TPM security chip on the motherboard. So if you're trying to run anything that's post, or I guess pre 2015, 2016, I don't know. I would say spend the $200 and get a new laptop and update your whole system.
I looked it up. Windows 10 will run on a 32-bit. But the other requirement that I noticed is that you need a CPU that is at least 2 cores and runs higher than a gigahertz. Right? So 1 gigahertz speed. That, the last time they... I guess the first 2-core piece Intel chip that came out was the Intel Core Duo in 2005, 2006. So this would seem to imply that people are still running computers and 250 million. So they're saying enterprise level, large companies that are using, hundreds and thousands of computers are going to have to dump them all. So insurance companies, governments, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of big companies that would have that many old PCs still running important work. Like I don't see it.
Yeah, I'm struggling to find where they're finding all these people that have these still.
Right. Excuse me. So this whole thing is rooted in a report from Canalys, it's right here, research from December of last year. And their report and their blog post about this just does the same gloom and doom, sky is falling, 250 million computers thing. And I emailed them asking about the authors of that report, being like, where's the data on this? I'm not, if it is 250 million, great. I haven't heard back yet, if I will at all, but that's what I want to know, because I'll be honest, e-waste is a big issue for me. I get scared, the GPU wars, the CPU wars now, the APU wars that are starting. I get freaked out every time it gets faster and faster, and you buy a CPU this year, and next year it's old news and everyone wants the newest darn thing. I've seen videos from Linus Tech Tips where they're like, we're running out of sand to make CPUs. And the e-waste issue, you don't hear much talked about, and that I feel like there should be pipelines, companies should have to at least put together a plan for, hey, we're creating this product, we're putting it out into the world, when its life cycle ends, here's what you should do with it. I'm not saying they should facilitate the recycle efforts, but they should be like, this is how it can be. Like, they should have a whole sustainability plan for each product that they're releasing if they're doing it this fast. What do you think of that notion?
Yeah, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's fast, but I just, like you're saying, I don't see it. It's talking about large multinational with hardware upgrades, since small companies are less likely to have large IT support teams, but still, you can get a bare bones computer to run your QuickBooks, to run any type of program for so cheap nowadays. I don't understand why people wouldn't recycle their old e-waste and continue to stay at least somewhat modernized.
I mean, well, you and I both know why the government sometimes doesn't. There are security issues, like in the government. When I was telling you the other day, when I was in the military, we were running Windows 7 when everyone was on XP, because you can't, if you want to switch out the whole military to a new system, that's a lot of computers around the world using different security infrastructures. Like, I get that. But in terms of like, sorry, I want to go back to my question. The idea that, like, when AMD releases a new chip or NVIDIA comes out with a new GPU, do you think that they should have to also present with it some kind of life cycle plan, so that people know what they can do with it on the back end rather than just throw it into a landfill?
Yeah, and I would like to see what they would be able to take the old architecture and an old product, and how much they could recycle that into a new product. Kind of like
they want to.
It is. Do what?
You'd think they'd want to, because if people turn that stuff back in, okay, we can take the gold, or I don't know what all the components are, but what can they salvage from it and then roll into the next generation? Would that cut down on raw material cost and things like that? Yeah, I mean,
it's like, a lot of people used to collect. I mean, people still collect cans, but like we're old enough to see the cash for clunkers, to where you're getting X amount. So what's to say they wouldn't do an initiative for e-waste? And it's like, you give X amount of product that has a certain size circuit board, whatever it may be, figure out an algorithm to where you give them X amount of e-waste and they give you some kind of check. But there has to be something done with it, because the Texas size floating landfill that's out in the ocean, like, this is going to be a huge impact on that if that's their only option, and it's not to actually recycle it as e-waste. But yeah, I mean, they should have some kind of sustainable, I don't know if there's really an end life to it that they could really forecast, because if we're still using 250 million computers, realistically, is a small number compared to the total number of computers that's in the world. But what happens whenever Windows 11, Windows 12 starts to die in the next 10 to 15 years, and we're continuing to add 250, 500 million, and it just continues to become a problem that we're just kind of like sweeping under the rug and never addressing.
I agree. So I actually presented this question to someone who I thought would have way more information than me. I was watching Linus Tech Tips WAN show last Friday on the 29th. And let me pull up here what here.
Oh, and another thing while you're pulling that up,
the
2025 stop support is going to be paired with an additional support for 3 years until 2028, but it does say there's an undisclosed price attached.
Right, you have to pay. You're paying extra to be maintained afterwards, and it didn't. They've done this previously with, like, I think when they switched to Windows 10 from 7, you could pay like $25 a month or something to get support moving on.
Updates,
and companies that need
that.
those security updates, like, I get that. All right, so I reached out to Linus Tech Tips and asked them, like, hey, I said, old PC tech seems to be piling up everywhere. Aside from recycling efforts, what trends and uses could you, the creators like LTT and others, and subject matter experts, promote to curb e-waste buildup? Because basically I'm like, you guys think about tech all day long. You've got to have some idea of like what you think would be a good idea. And the response I got was interesting. Education and repair, I guess. Not like companies make it possible. So it starts from them.
Not my problem.
This
is all I get
pisses
from that.
me. This ticks me off a lot. I would not be sitting here with you right now. I would not be involved in anything PC related if it weren't for LTT, Jay's 2 cents, Gamers Nexus. Like, these creators suck people in and make, like, I was a 41-year-old computer noob who hadn't touched a PC since like 1999 for like gaming purposes. Seriously, the last time I was gaming was Masters of Orion. These guys brought me, like, got me excited about it and brought me back in. They clearly have a vested interest in these companies producing something new all the time so they can review something new and they're excited about it. Linus himself is a big advocate of reducing e-waste. Like, he personally is invested in a company called, it's a laptop company. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a modular laptop. You can basically literally pull your GPU out and put a new one in. You can pull out your USB ports and pop new ones in. Framework, I think it's called. And okay. It's a great way to like reduce e-waste by not having to buy a new laptop all the time. You just replace the parts you want or upgrade them. That's great. But I do think they bear some responsibility for increasing the popularity of something, but then not, having an idea of like, all right, how can we also increase the sustainability of it? Well, what ideas do we have? You have this old PC lying around. I just bought a $40 Optiplex sitting on my floor over here that I'm turning into an arcade machine. Because I'm like, what else are you going to do with a, 4th gen Intel chip sitting in an old office PC? All right, do that. I find this answer to be a little sort of like, meh, we're fanning the flame, but we're not going to help, control the fire. That's on the companies, and I do agree.
I agree. If that's your response, it really tells all your viewers and followers, like, if they don't care about it, why should I? It's just like I said, it's not my problem. If the companies can't do it themselves, why should I worry about it? And Linus and their company with 14, 15 million viewers, however many they've got on YouTube right now, it's like that's just an odd response from his team.
I agree.
Which he has nothing to say about it. It's strictly his media team that's watching it. But it is one of those things. And whenever he's streaming the WAN show, it's probably a few thousand people watching, tuning in. But it just seems odd that that's how they would respond. Yeah,
I know for a fact, or I'm pretty sure that the person who answered this question was sitting on a toilet, because they showed him on camera at one point. They were doing a WAN show out of a house, not their normal studio. Linus did not address this question directly at all. I was hoping that they'd present it to him, but they didn't. But putting the onus on the company, I do think the companies do need to share a hand in it. I do think it's on us to be responsible with our e-waste. But this is a industry where there's a unique opportunity for people like, LTT to promote those sustainability features and maybe even put pressure on those companies. How many times have we seen Gamers Nexus go all Woodward and Bernstein on somebody like Newegg and get them to change their practices with like RMAs and stuff like that? Like, yeah, they know they have influence. This is something that I think would be great to exert said influence on. So
yeah, and I didn't think about it until just kind of looking at this, but it talks about how business leaders may dread PC changeover. Some entrepreneurs see e-waste as a golden opportunity. So they talk about these numbers, but it's strictly from Americans disposing of smartphones. That's 344 million in gold, 460 million in silver, 10 million in copper. Mm-hmm. So if you think, how many times have you gotten a new phone And obviously they're going to refurbish it, but you get a new phone and they give you X amount that they're going to put toward your next phone.
Right.
So what's to say you couldn't have a PC, eWaste, save whatever, you get a $50 Best Buy gift card, whatever it may be, to where it's like, cool, this can go toward my next Micro Center purchase. This can go, because I'm upgrading everything anyways. Why not continue to send it back to them? They melt it all down. They put it into new chips. They recycle everything as close to neutral as possible for the next generation.
Completely agree. All right. So thus ends my rant on, thus ends my rant on e-waste, because it's something I think we need to focus on and consider, because it's crazy. I've only been involved and passionate about this for like 2 years. People have been in this for a while. I imagine they've been seeing this wave of e-waste headed their direction for quite some time. So that concludes all of our tech news for the evening. If you have any tech support related questions, we're going to move on to our main topic of the evening, which is used PC parts, the used PC market. But if you have any questions or about anything related to PC support, say you're building a computer right now and you need some help, let us know in the comments and we'll stop what we're doing and give you a hand. But for the moment, we are going to move on to our main topic of the evening, the used PC market. Okay, so the reason I suggested this as our theme is a couple days ago I saw this on Facebook. A guy posted, this guy from Facebook's in the comments right now, Roland. I don't know how to say his first name, so I'm not going to try and butcher it. Someone posted to Facebook recently, how much should I sell my PC for? The specs are 3080, Ryzen 7 3700, 2 terabyte SSD, an NZXT case, a B550 motherboard, a 750 watt PSU, and 16 gigs of DDR4. And then they've got a 240 millimeter AIO. Right off the bat, what would you price that at if you were trying to sell it?
What would I price that at? So the 3080 and in my opinion, the 3000 series Ryzen 7 is still a decent CPU. 2 terabyte SSD. Like I'm a fan of the NZXT cases, and it's the elite case, but man, it's so hard to gauge something like this. I would probably say if this was my PC and I was selling it, I would probably list it for 1,000. And if somebody talked me down to 800, 850, I'd probably take it. But that also depends on what I've got invested into it. So if I had this computer and I had a 3080 laying around and I bought the rest of the PC for $400, realistically, I'm getting $600 for my 3080. So that's kind of the way I do my math when it comes to selling used PCs is what all do I have into it and what am I looking to make off of it and what am I willing to lose just to get it out of my space and on to the next.
Yeah, I have a different take on these kind of situations because I'm looking at it in terms of the buyer. You're trying to appeal to someone who wants this hardware or could potentially want this hardware. And looking at this, if I were in the market for something, knowing what's current gen right now and what that costs, do I want to buy myself a B550 right now? Do I want to buy a 3700X right now? Do I want a 3080 GPU right now. And if I do buy that now, and that's my starting point, what is my potential cost in the near future? How long until I have to upgrade or I'm going to really want to upgrade? And then look at that upgrade cost, add it to this, and say, okay, if I have to spend 600 over the next year or over the next 2 years, plus, you know, let's say 800, mathematically that's $1,400. What could I get for $1,400 that is better than this? Could I get more than this for $1,400? I think people need to look at the whole package and realize that, especially with a motherboard, like when there's PCIe Gen 5 out now and you're buying one that's stuck solely at 3, you're 2 generations behind on PCIe. Like, why? I know it sucks for the seller, but I think things like this, and you can see my comment below, I recommended that they sell it. You know, I'd say I wouldn't pay more than 800, but I think they'd make more money if they parted it out. I think individually there might be somebody out there looking for a B550 motherboard. I think individually someone might be looking for an NZXT case. I think you'd get better odds parting this stuff out, because buying these used, well-used gaming PCs, there's just there's also so many unknowns. You know, the hard drive. Like, people don't run. Have you ever run a hard drive health test?
Yes, I have, and it takes a very long time.
When you've gone to buy a computer?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Exactly. You don't know what you're getting. So, so based on this experience or what I witnessed online here, we went down the rabbit hole, and first up are some case studies that you found, and we want to give you guys some advice on, both as the buyer and the seller, what we think might be best practices. Starting with
before you skip off of this, one more thing that I would say to support your case as far as parting it out. Mm-hmm. The one thing you could change on that, and you have to look at it as to what you can sell it for and what you can improve.
Right.
And that computer right there, let's say you were to buy a $250 Ryzen 7 5800X or the X3D for $250 to $280, and then you turn around and take that 3700 separate to part that out and sell it for $120. If you can lose that 130 to make 200, that's what I would recommend you do.
Right. I also, and I'll say this again at the end, when you're selling something, do the math on how much use you've got out of it. And this goes for, I think, anything really. Do the math on how much use you've gotten out of it. Sell it for what you can, or, you know, look what the market price is, go a little bit below, get it out the door, and once it's gone, look at how much you actually spent. You spend $1,000 on a computer, use it for 2-3 years, sell it for $600. You've now paid $400 to basically rent a computer for 3 years. That's a great deal.
I mean, you're paying for entertainment at that point.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
You got to remove the emotional attachment to these things, like you built it. You know, like you don't, I know what I have here. I've got a 3080. Like, you didn't build the 3080. You went to the store like anyone else could and bought it. Like, stop possessing it like you found it in, you know, like Indiana Jones in the, you know, Temple of Doom or something. Our first case study is this interesting setup. You want to tell everybody what we're looking at here?
All right, so this was a setup for a PC and the audio equipment to include the audio interface, the microphone. I think it was a headset, boom arm, keyboard, and computer. Now, the computer does have, I don't know if this one has the, this one doesn't have the spec. So it was a 3080. My concern with this is he posted a PC part picker link. This setup was listed for $3,000, and as you can see, the PC part picker link shows $1,184 minus the audio equipment. A beacon, audio interface, and a microphone is $500. So why would you post everything to show what it's worth and then almost double that as your selling price? Not only that, if you're looking to move your stuff, and me personally, if your stuff is this dirty, and I think if you scroll down, you'll see the additional pictures. But if your stuff is this dirty, I don't think you've taken care of it at all. So why would I pay top dollar for something that has been used and abused, and I'm going to have to go through and absolutely clean everything anyway? So, in my opinion, just look at the surroundings on the computer, the conditions it's been in, the cat hair, the dog hair, the skin flakes that are in the fans, the radiators probably clogged. Like, it's just absolutely disgusting. And I'm not going to spend anywhere near, I wouldn't even spend what they've got on the PC part picker for that PC.
I'm with you 100%. The dog or cat hair on the microphone screen is, and that Stream Deck or interface or whatever that thing is there with the buttons, it's
Mm-hmm.
And you brought up a really great point the other day.
You get a film of dirt on the inside of that case like that. It's just like so saturated, but it's
yeah,
like,
right here.
It's like the dude sneezing on the inside of it and then closing it.
Yeah, right there. That is nuts. You pointed out something when we were talking about this last night, how clear the image is for the Mountain Dew and then how blurry it is for the actual thing he's selling.
Good pictures and cleanliness will go a long ways.
I want to know what's in this jar. That is so creepy. I think it's dead bugs. I think that is a fly trap. And it's been collecting flies, and it's dead flies. Yeah. That's nuts. All right. The next one we're looking at here is a Alienware with basically the facsimile for a penis sticker on the front.
Yeah. So this was just another one of those. I think this was $850 for a 2080. I can't remember the CPU, but the main thing is, like I said, if you're selling on Marketplace, it will sell a lot faster if you have just the computer in front of a blank wall. You don't have to dress it up. You don't have to do anything. Take it in your kitchen and take a picture in front of a blank wall versus your monster cans, your prescriptions, your whatever it is. Like, just clean it up a little bit. A can of air duster does a lot for that.
Give me just a second. I'm trying to look at what this book is.
The Meat Eater Guide
to Wilderness and Survivor Skills.
Survival.
Yeah. Okay. This is the Meat Eater's Guide. So this person, it's interesting. They have a vegetable sticker on their computer, but they're clearly anti-vegan. So you're right. I mean, just why have your pill bottles on here? Just everything about this screams, this is a plastic folding table. This is what they game on. We have another one here. This is,
by all means, just to preface this, we're not trying to make fun of anybody. We're trying to help you with your own future decisions. So none of these, we don't have any names or anything. We're not trying to call anybody out. It's strictly that this is what you should not do.
Oh, yeah, mine actually do have the names on them.
Oh.
But I'm not. You're talking about presentation. Like your angle for this conversation is presentation, and I completely agree. I think like this, how dusty this is. I do have a whole video on my channel here that we're watching this on YouTube on cleaning your PC and some tools and supplies you can use. It is a great feeling to clean your PC. Go fan blade by fan blade. It's well worth it.
Yeah, and that goes to this next one. The amount of dust that's on this, it is very satisfying to take a very dirty PC. I've bought numerous PCs that are like this, and it is fun to clean them up. I don't recommend you do it in your house. If you've got a garage, go somewhere, because
outdoors.
I don't think people understand. That is not just dust from the outside. That is skin, that is hair, that is dandruff, that is all that's everything that you're breathing in. And if your computer is right next to you cycling this stuff in, imagine what it's doing to your lungs. So as a health PSA, like, get you a duster, get you whatever it may be. If you do it every 3 to 4 months, it will not end up like this.
I'm even less stringent about it. I do it like maybe twice a year. But that, I mean, to each their, basically you do the white glove test. You get to a certain point, you're like, all right, well, it's time for spring cleaning. You can also use that opportunity to do tune-ups, refresh your thermal paste, maybe put in a better fan. I do want to do a whole video on tune-ups. Maybe you and I can talk about that. Yeah. Our next one is a NASCAR fan from Texas selling a NZXT computer for $850. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so kind of like you mentioned earlier, whenever you're asking, a group of people, it's always going to be subjective. But this guy has a 6th gen i5 with a 1063 gig for $850. So I have bought PCs for $900 with 3080s in them. There's no way I'm going to spend that much on a PC that is from 2017. And yeah. Not only that, but I mean, just the stickers don't bother me. That stuff can come off. But once again, dirty, dirty, dirty PC.
What did you price this one out and see how much it would actually cost?
No, and that's kind of something else that me and you were kind of talking about yesterday. If you searched up GTX 1063 gig, and I'll do it while you're going over yours, but
okay,
you will find listings for $400. And I don't know. I think the only thing about it is people may be looking for just a replacement. Let's say Ned across the street doesn't know anything about computers. He pulls it out and sees that his had a 1063 gig. So he's trying to get just a direct replacement instead of upgrading. So somebody has it and thinks it's a rare, it's old, it still works. So they're going to price it for $400. So someone else thinks $400 is what this thing's worth.
Yeah. So for Sync, if I'm saying that right, the guy in the comments section here who I was chatting with on YouTube, Facebook earlier, Sync, anytime you're shopping for a computer, when they list the specs, see what you could build it for. Not saying you have to go build a computer, but if you were going to build a computer, what would it cost you to buy all these parts? And then if it's above that, you're essentially considering that what it is you're paying. There you go, $389 for
a 1063 gig.
Hold on, that seems a little expensive. What?
That's what I'm saying. It's like if you're getting a factory replacement, to just swap what you've got instead of, let's say, getting a 2060. It makes absolutely no sense. But somebody, dude, I've seen 1050 Ti's for $400 because you search that model and somebody's got it online listed. Newegg has it. That's Newegg. So Newegg has it for this price. And Joe Schmo down the road thinks, oh, I've got that same thing. I'll turn around and put mine for $350 and I'll outsell Newegg. Well, then it sits on Facebook Marketplace for a year, and you got people like me that's like, yo, bro, I'll give you $60 for it.
Seriously,
and
that is
they
nuts.
Continue to get harassed by people that are like, hey, man, it's not worth that.
So they're setting, not me, by the way. They're setting a market. See,
yeah,
I fear that that's because Newegg wants to sell 4070s. So if they make something that old, that expensive, someone might as well spend an extra $200 and get the 4070. Like, it's almost like they're forcing people to buy the newest thing by keeping a small amount of inventory and then overpricing it. That's nuts.
Like I said, I think the only thing about that is you don't know. If you don't know what it costs or don't know how to upgrade it, your mind goes to, here's the part, let me search this number. Oh man, that's expensive, but I need it to get my computer running, versus knowing, oh, well, that one's a 2060, not a 1060. I need the 1060.
And no one really, you don't need, I mean, you could put a 2060 in that.
It's like if you don't know anything about computers and that's all you pull out,
you're going like for like.
i5 6500, and computer or CPUs are a little bit different, but GPUs, for some reason, you always see them from Newegg at an astronomical price.
So there you go. All right, so now we're going to move on to, this is one of my case studies I found around here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Somebody selling a, what they're saying newly built, and I can still see the sticker on the glass there from the case, newly built with a Ryzen 9 5900X, which is what I have, and a 3060, 16 gigs of DDR4, a terabyte SSD. I don't know if that's M.2 or SATA. And then some FPS scores, which I honestly, for 3060, I thought were low. Warzone high settings at 70 FPS, whatever. Anyway, looking at this, I thought 800 was actually a really decent price. What do you think?
I would say, and I was going to look it up real quick, buy new. Buy new because, yes, the Ryzen 9 is great, but you can get gaming PCs right now, brand new with a warranty, all brand new parts. You're the only driver. You know the miles that you put on it with a 3060 for the same exact price. So
with a Ryzen, with a 5900X.
Probably not a 5900X. It's probably going to come with maybe a Ryzen 7, maybe a Ryzen 5. Regardless, I would feel more comfortable buying this from a store and having the ability to know everything that's in it.
Okay, that's interesting, because this is the one case. This is the one of my case studies which I actually thought like this was actually a decent deal, because you could take that 5900X out of there, sell it, go get a 5700X 3D, which is was until this year the best gaming CPU out there, and maybe even make save some money on it. But yeah, does it say what the power supply is? Because the 3060 I think is perfectly fine for gaming, if you're not an elitist. So
yeah, no, the 3060 is definitely 1440 playable and all that. Like the Ryzen 9 is definitely a little bit high for that GPU, but it's not going to bottleneck. You're not going to have any issues with it. But yeah, like you're saying, you could buy a Ryzen 5 5600X for $130, $150 brand new, slap in that thing and turn around and sell it for probably $600, $700, $650 maybe, and sell that Ryzen 9 for a $200, $250.
I think you can sell for more than that. I paid $450 for mine, $430, I think.
Yeah, I think right now you can get the Ryzen 9 5900X for $299.
What? I'm feeling silly. Okay. So the next one, this is where it gets mucky, because when you say buy new, I want to caveat that with there's a difference between buying a new pre-built and then buying something from someone like HP or Dell, because this is an HP Omen that someone's had. It's got a 10th gen i7, a 1080 Ti, which is still considered one of the best GPUs of its time for scientific reasons. It's got an HP specific motherboard, which is going to be extremely limiting, and they want to sell it for $600. It does have a single fan AIO, which is from HP, and admittedly 32 gigs of RAM. Would you pay $600 for this, and why?
I would probably shoot them the low ball, hit them with 450 and see if they would hit me with 500. I would take it for 500, and all I would do is put a little bit elbow grease in it and probably put it for $600 or $650 to make $100. And that, I mean, the 1080 Ti just did a video on the flip up challenge, and it had a 1080 Ti, and I think it had a Ryzen 7 5800X. I'd have to look back at it, but very capable, very high performing still for that 1080 Ti. Still very capable of gaming. It is the equivalent of a 3060. So you can get 1440 gaming out of that with no issue. But I would definitely try to flip that and make a quick buck off of it.
See, this is where I'm in the camp of what do you have to look ahead. If you're going to buy this and spend $600 on it, how much runway is it giving you for the future and future proofing? With an HP specific motherboard, you're extremely limited on where you're going to be able to go from there. If you ever have to upgrade the motherboard, you're doing a new build. Consider it that.
Absolutely.
And I helped a guy, a complete stranger on Facebook recently. He wanted to upgrade his Omen. And I started talking with him about what he had. I'm just like, well, if you get this before I knew it, I sent him all the parts for he needed a new power supply, new GPU, new motherboard. I think the only thing he kept was the CPU. And I was like, if you get this motherboard, you can still use your CPU, but then you can upgrade to like I think 13th gen Intel or something like that, where like it lets you hop a generation still. It's got the same. So keep the CPU. Your CPU is great, but get rid of the motherboard. And then we got all the way to installing it. I'm like on FaceTime with him, helping him with it, and he shows me the case, and there's no ventilation in these things.
Oh no,
he didn't have an AIO.
And the front is completely glass.
And the top was, unlike this one, the top didn't have a vent. So I was like, all right, break out the Dremel, man. And I didn't hear from him again. Turns out he went to some local store. They sold him a new case and like installed it into the case for him and charged him a bunch of money for that. I mean, I think my recommendations cost him $350. His, additional cost after having someone else finish the job, I was like, man, just Frankenstein that thing. Cut some holes in the case, get some airflow in there. If you buy a pre-built and you buy it from one of these companies, there's some proprietary stuff you got to be concerned about, and it's going to limit what you can do in the future. So that's what I always game out what it's going to cost you in the future versus if you just bought state-of-the-art brand new. And if you're selling, consider parting it out, is what I was trying to convince Bradford here last night. There's always someone looking for some obscure motherboard or on eBay. It may take you longer, but just, consider it, because I think you'll make what you're actually looking for. But remove that emotional attachment. This is just in here for fun. This is a Dell Optiplex office computer with some RGB panel slapped on the front. I paid $40 for one of these recently. Do not pay $400 for something like this. Incidentally, this was actually this 𝐂𝐎𝐿𝐌𝐿 guy that's selling this had created that Facebook account that day, and we can see where roughly where he lives, but clearly it was a scam account, and I would venture to guess this was stolen. But this is a
dirty folding table.
Yes, some kind of schmutz on the table here. I don't know what that is. But you've seen a lot of this on Amazon too, where people are taking these Optiplexes, wrapping them in like glitter, literally gold glitter vinyl, and selling them as gaming PCs.
Yep, some of them have the infinity screens on them and everything. And my concern, I wish more parents would watch content like this, because little Timmy wants a gaming PC. So mom goes to Amazon, gaming PC. They end up sending you an Intel 2500 with an RX 560 that's not going to play Fortnite on 720. Like, it's going to struggle to play it on even very reduced settings. And I actually have a video where one of these was $500. I found it locally, bought it from a guy because I wanted to see what it was capable of and show, like, do not buy this. Whenever I got the PC, the CPU was running at 98 degrees right out of the box. So it's like they're literally just taking from the 240 million computers that they're going to throw in the ocean, taking the motherboard and everything out, putting it into a flashy case, and then selling it to some kid or some kid's mom for $500. And then the kid's like, Mom, I can't even play with my friends. So like I said, please stay away from these things.
Yeah. I do see a lot of parents on these Facebook groups being like, my son wants this computer. Is this a good one? And you know, a lot of people are very helpful with them in that case.
I guarantee you this person paid $400 for this computer and he's trying to get his money back.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that's probably a good point. The next one is something I saw in one of the Facebook groups. This is kind of a joke. I think they thought this was horribly overpriced. $1,700 for a Strix 550, Ryzen 5 3600, a 1650 Super. 750 power supply, and then it also includes probably a base level monitor, like
HP 1080 60 hertz,
which is pretty much what I've got here. Ooh, and a desktop pad. Those are important. What are your initial thoughts on this?
That's a $400 computer with with bare bones monitor, keyboard, and just peripherals.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a $500 setup that you're trying to get $1,750 for.
Yeah.
And I promise you have not thrown everything at it with no issues. So I really hate when people do that, because it's a false advertisement to think that you're playing Cyberpunk on this computer at any kind of settings that is 1080 at minimum.
Yeah.
Once again, I don't want to advertise myself, but I just did a video on budget CPUs nowadays with gaming, and a 1650 Super was part of it. And it was
advertise yourself. His channel links in the comments. Follow this guy. He also builds computers.
But yeah, I mean, 1650. I mean, you've got the Western Digital 4 terabyte hard drive. That's $70. You've got a 1 terabyte SSD. That's $70. 32 gigs of RAM, $70. The 1650. If you go to Newegg, you can get it for $500, but $70. The Ryzen 5 3600. Like, this is full of $70 parts. So yeah, I would not recommend this.
And when it comes to peripherals, my recommendation is Facebook Marketplace and I'm not an FPS guru or snob about it. I got two 1440 like 32-inch monitors. I got them for $95 for the pair.
Nice. Because
some guy during the pandemic, offices in San Francisco cleared out and just left crap behind. So people were scooping up stuff from office buildings and just selling them on Facebook Marketplace. So I got a pair of 1440 Asus monitors. Granted, they're like 60 hertz. They're not, nothing crazy, but I got them for less than $100, a pair of them. And I implore people to go out and look for those deals, unless there's some very specialized peripheral, like your keyboard or your mouse, where you want something specific, go buy it new. But yeah, I agree with you. I think my last one here, this is actually an interesting case because you can speak to this. You do this as a hobby. I don't know if you call it a living yet. This is a 4080 Super that someone purpose built to sell. And I priced it out. It's not far off. This would, I think the build that I made on Newegg was somewhere around 2,300. What would you say to people who find this kind of post? Like, do you sell yours that you build on Facebook? Like, this, you might as well build it yourself, is what I always say. If I see something like this, what would you say to somebody who builds and wants to sell? Like, is this a good tactic, or how do you think they should approach?
So I will say, if you're building them to sell, I would not recommend building one and selling it as much as I would recommend finding somebody that wants a computer and is willing to pay for it and pay you to build it. Even if you're making $100, it's hard to say that you would get $2,600 for this computer. And that's just for the fact of you don't know if everything's wired correctly. You don't know if it's going to crap out on you in the first week. Not only that, but kind of like we had the conversation yesterday, if I'm carrying $2,600 to meet somebody for a computer, that's not safe. Like that is a red flag to me. Because if I'm bringing $2,600, there's dangers out there. Meet in public places. And that's kind of another thing we need to wrap up, is like tips for selling and buying. But realistically, unless you have somebody, it's like, hey man, my tax return just came in. I want a PC, but I don't know what I'm doing. Cool, man. I got you. Give me X amount of money. I'll build it for you. But to build something like this, just to turn around and sell it, I don't see there being, because obviously Facebook is full of people that are going to lowball you. So somebody's going to say, I got 2,000 cash. Do you want it?
Mm-hmm.
And you're either going to be like, gosh, dude, I've had it on here for 6 months and nobody's got $2,600. So then you're going to end up taking a huge loss because it's been sitting there collecting dust. And then it looks like the rest of the computers that we've just went through.
Yeah. I agree. So my final thoughts from the point of I'll take the staunch stance of the point of the buyer and the seller. As the buyer, look at the parts individually and evaluate them. You know, if you don't understand them, ask somebody. Seek here, who's been on Facebook, he posted this like a number of different computers to like 5 different Facebook groups today, asking everybody like, what do you think of this one? What do you think of this one? What do you think? He's getting that opinion. He's got screenshots of the specs, and he's going to get, I didn't look at all the opinions he got. He's going to get a lot of different opinions, but definitely look at what it would take to build it, consider building it, or find someone like Bradford here to skillfully assemble it yourself. If you are selling a computer, my advice is remove some emotional attachment and look at it like what's Bradford saying with flipping it, like the math of like, oh, if I bought it for this and I can sell it for this and get something else, do some math there. We'll call that boy math. Or look at it like renting. Okay, I know I paid $2,000 for this, but if I can get $1,200 for it, then I paid $800 to borrow this for a little while. Not a bad deal. I think that should be what people, they should never really think like, have this emotional attachment over the money they spent 2 years ago and think that it's theirs, and that, you know, that they carry some kind of pride about it or something. I think that's silly. What are your final thoughts on the topic?
My final thoughts, if like some of the other advertisements, if it does not have a list of the parts that are installed in it, ask them. Make sure you know exactly what you're buying. If it is a full computer, ask them to send you a video of it booting up. Make sure that everything is working the way it should. Always meet in a public place that has potential for cameras, a Walmart parking lot, a Best Buy parking lot, something that is in public to where other people are around. Don't go to people's houses. By all means, don't go to someone's house and then say, yeah, come on in, I'll show you that it works. And then your $2,600 that you've got for your gaming PC is now in somebody else's pocket and you're walking out the door. But yeah, really just stay safe. Make sure that you know exactly what you're buying. And not only that, my biggest recommendation, the way I got into building computers, scour Marketplace for $80, $100, $150 computers. Take them apart, put them together, make sure they work. Learn, educate yourself on how to build a computer before you spend $2,000 on building your own computer. I was afraid to take my PC at the time apart because I was afraid I wouldn't get it back together. So I spent $80, got a computer, cleaned it up, flipped it for $150, felt good about that. And then it was just kind of a learning experience from there on out. So by all means, use Marketplace, but I don't recommend buying and selling anything over $600 because I can take that loss and step away with my life versus being held at gunpoint and possibly losing my life. So
it sounds
that's just me. And that happened about an hour down the road about a year ago. So like a computer is not worth your life. I don't recommend doing Marketplace trades for more than $600, in my opinion.
Do you live in Gotham? Like,
Shreveport and Monroe is not the best places to meet up publicly, regardless of where, like what you're trading or anything. So daily stories of people getting ended. So,
jeez. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for everybody who tuned in. I hope you got some useful information out of it. Sync, if you've got any further questions, you clearly know where I am on Facebook. Please like and follow myself or Bradford here. He's got some really good content coming up. I'm still waiting on that sustainable PC video that I'm excited about. And I see, could you show people, yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
This is my prop for the screwdriver review. Linus Tech Tips logo in my typeface, so hopefully it doesn't sue us. But yeah, I've got a little stash of screwdrivers that I'll be testing out. And like I said, just got back from Nebraska, so ready to get back into some video making.
Yeah, I have a laptop repair video I've been saying I was going to work on, but I'll be gone. We won't be here next week. We're taking a week off next week, and we'll be back with something interesting and enthralling as we like to do. So thank you for tuning in. I'm General Buckles.
Yeah, have a good one.
Later.